Hello, welcome to the Liverpool FC Journal, guys. I'm W. James. This is your Liverpool news update. We're going to talk centre-backs. We're going to talk Konate, Schlotterbeck. We're going to talk ALISSON Becker. We've even got a bit of Harvey Elliott mixed in there for your delectation here on the 18th of November. We are, 4 days away. That's 4 days away from real football, guys. Well, I suppose it's actually, Tuesday today, isn't it? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it's Saturday, and real football is back. Football, when God intended football to be played, on a Saturday at 3 o'clock. Liverpool obviously welcome Nottingham Forest to Anfield in what is going to be a crucial run of fixtures for the Reds. A chance to really get back on track this season, and we're going to have a look ahead to those fixtures in another video, so please obviously keep your eyes open for that video when it drops. But look, let's start off with the whole Ibou Konate situation, which is fast becoming another Trent Alexander 2.0 at this rate, another Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk contract drama, just get it done or shut up or do something. Look, now reports are emerging this morning. Look, I know before anyone says it that all these reports must be taken with a huge pinch of salt because, let's face it, journalists do make things up, especially around Liverpool, where they know they'll get clicks by writing these stories. So, we've got to kind of take at face value what's written. But it's been said that Liverpool have made a generous contract offer to the French international central defender who captained his country the other day. Look, no word as to what that generous offer is. Perhaps, I don't know, a couple of hot dogs a day. Maybe they'll drive him to work, but I don't know. Or maybe it's just a very substantial wage. I don't know. Look, it is obviously the situation that this needs to be sorted ASAP, and I think needs to get sorted before the January transfer window. And I think even if Ibou Konate was to agree to a new contract, and I'm not saying that, that he is or he isn't, it still, I think, leaves Liverpool short in that centre-back area, given the injury to Giovanni Leone, given the fact that Joe Gomez is not exactly the most reliable, given the fact that Virgil is not getting any younger, and Ibou and Virgil can't play every single game if we're going to play 50, 60 games this season. So, realistically, I do think we do still need to get a centre-back, and more of that in a moment. But let's talk about Ibou Konate first of all. So, look, he came out the other day and he talked about the contract situation, and he said he hopes to soon be able to show that his decision has been made. Now, the more people have kind of looked into this and talked about this and discussed this, they kind of take it down the route of he must be looking at signing a new deal, because why would he come out this early in the season and say, I'm off to Real Madrid in the summer? Because it's going to make him, I don't know, perhaps it make him a bit unpopular with the fans, because his performances certainly haven't exactly been the best this season. And it's frustrating because, last season Ibou was an absolute superstar. He was fantastic and probably one of our best defenders last season. And I think, could he get back to those levels? Hopefully, because if he does, he's a phenomenal player. And he's shown it in flashes this season, whereas at other times this season, he's really had the I can't be arsed head on. So, a deal needs to be agreed sooner rather than later. And it appears from what people are saying that it's trending towards him staying. Now, maybe that Madrid have had a change of heart on Konate. Maybe they've looked at his performances this season and gone, no thanks, lads, not having that one. I don't know. The whole situation, we don't know. No one will know. I mean, look, no one's ever going to know until, I think, Ibou retires or until someone, one of the clubs speaks about it. No one is going to definitively know the answer. I honestly believe that if we can get Konate tied down to a new contract, then it is a good thing. I still think we need to go and get a Gay or a Schlotterbeck or a Bastoni or someone of that ilk to come in and play, because look, going forward, like I said, Virgil's not getting any younger, Joe Gomez is unreliable, and you can't have a situation where you're going to have just two centre-halves who realistically can start the majority of your games. That is not a strategy going forward. And, as much as Arne Slot may talk about the options that he has in Wataru Endo, Gravenberch, Andy Robertson, etc., none of them are actually truly centre-backs. And look, that may work in an emergency, but in a long-term position where you may get an injury and say Ibou or Virgil was out for 4, 6, 8 weeks, you can't realistically go through that time with Andy Robertson or Wataru Endo at centre-back. It just will not work. So look, the sooner this gets sorted, the better. I think Liverpool do need to play hardball with the player. As I've said on previous videos, they do need to come back and say, look, if you're not going to sign this deal, if you're not going to give it, come out and say, yes, I'm staying, give me the contract, then, he needs to be sold by my reckoning. Right, look, there are still a lot of chats around Liverpool and centre-backs. An awful lot going on. With links, obviously, Gay, January possible. We've seen Bastoni linked 88 mil from Inter Milan. We've seen a number of names. Upamecano at the end of the season, who's obviously out of contract at Bayern. So much is going on. Now, a player who has been linked with a number of Premier League clubs, including Manchester United and Liverpool, is Nico Schlotterbeck, the Borussia Dortmund player. Schlotterbeck is a 25-year-old German, currently with Borussia Dortmund. Now, he's already made it clear that he doesn't plan to sign a new contract at Borussia Dortmund. So Dortmund will be looking to cash in on the German international. Now, this is Schlotterbeck is a very talented footballer. He's a strong centre-half. He's a dominating centre-half. He's quick. He reads the game exceptionally well. Very, very highly rated in his native Germany. He is 25 years old, so again, right in the prime of his career. Got a good few years left to go. He's under contract until 2027, so he only has the 2 years. And as I've talked about in previous videos, players with a two-year contract, 2 years left on their contract, that is when you either go to them and say, here's your new deal, sign it, or you sell them, because that's when the value is, it's the last chance to get your optimum value for the player. In 12 months' time, his value will be severely depressed, hence why Dortmund would agree to a sale. Now, Schlotterbeck has reported, according to Fabian Plettenberg in Germany, indicated his desire to play in the Premier League, certainly choosing the Premier League over the likes of Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich were reportedly interested in the Dortmund defender, as they often are, cherry-picking the very best German talents, as they attempted to do with Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. So, look, Schlotterbeck would be a player that could come in, could hit the ground running, and certainly start. He's a left-sided centre-back, so could possibly be the future for replacement for Virgil van Dijk. A very good player, a very, very interesting player. Now, look, the value apparently that Dortmund want is around £52 million, which is about €65 million. It's thought that the price could actually be brought down, and that in the end may not be the overall price paid for the player, depending on, of course, when he moves. But Schlotterbeck does very much seem to be on the Reds' radar going forward. Look, whatever the situation, whether it's Schlotterbeck, whether it's Gay, Bastoni, Collins, whoever, for me, no matter what happens with Konate, Liverpool need a new centre-back in January. It's an absolute must. You cannot go into the second half of the season with only the centre-backs we have, which is three, basically. This is Gomez, who, like I said, his fitness is not reliable, Konate, and Virgil van Dijk. Yes, if Giovanni Leone was still fit, then this may be a different conversation, but he isn't. He is out until late 2026. He will not be back until around this time next year, which puts him out for the whole rest of the season and the start of next, which does mean I think Liverpool do need a centre-back, one at the very, very minimum. I honestly believe that failure to sign a centre-back in January would be negligent by Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards and leave the squad criminally short in a very, very key area. Now, one player who is, left Liverpool this summer on a loan, and did it because, look, he wasn't getting the game time, he wasn't getting the chances at Liverpool that he's perhaps deserved, which is Harvey Elliott. I mean, I've got to say I'm a big Harvey Elliott fan. I loved Harvey. Thought he was a good player. I thought he did exceptionally well. I loved his goal against PSG last season. When Jurgen Klopp was here, he'd kind of established himself as a bit of a regular for Jurgen. Played a number of games for Jurgen during the Germans' final 2 seasons. It was clear that Klopp clearly rated Elliott. Schlott seems to have less rate Elliott, hence why he left him. Well, one of the reasons why he left on loan. I think the second reason obviously been that Elliott wanted to go to a team where he would play, he'd get first team opportunities and could push his England call. But let's face it, when you've got a situation where Elliott has actually played less minutes for Villa than Chiesa has for Liverpool, you've got a problem. Elliott is having a nightmare time in the Midlands. He certainly is not getting a fair crack of the whip. And, Emery insists that this is just a tactical decision. It's nothing personal. There's been stories that Elliott was brought in by Monkey and it wasn't an Emery player, and then Monkey left and now he's kind of out in the cold. There's been talk about a recall, etc., etc. Now, he did appear in Villa's Christmas marketing campaign, so people have kind of put 2 and 2 together there and got 5 or 4, depending on where you're at with this one, and said that he clearly is part of Villa's plans because, look, he's appeared in this advert. Maybe, I don't know, but that happens all the time with players. You've got to take that. Now, Elliott is an ambitious young lad and he wants to play football. He's not getting the opportunity at Villa. He really isn't getting a fair crack at the whip. And when you know, he was, when Emery was asked about this, you know, Emery talked about Buendia, he talked about Morgan Rogers, he talked about even Ross Barkley. Yes, the veteran toffee Ross Barkley. I mean, let's face it, it's got to be humiliating when you're behind him in the pecking order. You know, so it appears that Elliott is around fourth choice for that number 10 spot. Now, look, Elliott could, of course, play somewhere else. He's played out wide for Liverpool. But it appears that he's not part of Emery's plans. So, look, the club have got an interesting decision to make for me when it comes to January. I don't know. I mean, some people say there is a recall clause, others say there isn't a recall clause in Elliott's contract with Villa. But he isn't getting first team minutes. He isn't being used. He isn't being played. And realistically, going forward, if you look at the situation, you know, with Buendia, with Ross Barkley, with Morgan Rogers, he just genuinely is not going to get the opportunity to play and show himself in the best possible light. Now, I'm not saying if he comes back to Liverpool, he walks straight back into Liverpool's team. Of course he doesn't. But he does provide a useful option, I believe. And I would certainly be, if I was Liverpool, be looking at taking him back in January and actually using him in the second half of the season. I think he's a player who can come in and make a difference. I honestly believe you could have put him on in place of Salah in a number of games this season, where Salah has been absolutely embarrassing at times with his performances. You know, this is a player who could come in and actually make a difference. He is a good player. So it's an interesting choice Liverpool have got to make going forward. Do they recall Harvey, or do they not recall Harvey? I would say, boys and girls, we should recall him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Right, let's have a little look. So Harvey Elliott there. Alisson Becker, ladies and gentlemen, will be back after the international break. Yes, since obviously he limped off against Galatasaray, he's missed 8 games for the Reds. And look, nothing against Georgi Mamardashvili. He's a solid keeper. He's a decent keeper. He's a good keeper. He's not outstanding. He's not brilliant. I don't think he's any better than. I think he's a downgrade on Kamin Kelleher. I think Kelleher is a better goalkeeper than Mamardashvili. But look, Kelleher had to be allowed to leave to go and play number 1 as he is at Brentford. But look, Alisson Becker is back. Now, look, like I said, nothing against Georgie, but for me, Alisson walks straight back into that team. This guy is on a different level, a different planet. You know, he is absolute class, and his saves have kept us in games in the past. You go out to the PSG game last year, you go to the Palace game this year, to name but 2 of many. You know, he has been outstanding this season, and for me, he gives much more confidence to our defence. He makes us a lot more solid at the back. Like I said, nothing against Georgi Mamardashvili, who will feel hard done to, but for me, Alisson Becker walks straight back into that starting 11 against Nottingham Forest on the 22nd, guys. I'd love to know your thoughts on this one too. Right, that is it, guys, for your news roundup video. Thank you for watching the Liverpool FC Journal. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you on the next one.